And this is just an amazing day to have the founders of 100 Huntley Street, Crossroads Television. We are so thrilled to celebrate the 40th anniversary of this being the daily telecast of 100 Huntley Street. Ron and Ann Mainse. Ron's worked here for 30 years. Ann Mainse, thank you so much for joining your mom and dad. We're just going to ask Melissa to come on up. David, you remember how special the McEachern family has been to us here? Yeah, there you go. She carried on as a baby. She was carried on as a baby on set first, so we'll just get her to clear that. You were 22 years old, Norma-Jean. David, you were 25. Can you imagine, all you young people out there, if you'd had the courage to, 1962 television was brand new. It was a new toy. What were you thinking, David? 25 years old, I'm going to start a TV show.
Well, there was a new television station in Pembroke, and in the upper Ottawa Valley on up to Chalk River, Deep River, there was no television. You couldn't get any. There's no satellite. There's no over-the-air television. And so I went into the owner of the television station. I said, I want Saturday night, 11:30 p.m. live. They didn't have no videotape machine.
Now they've named a whole show after that, Saturday Night Live, but it was you. It was you.
We had the first one, actually, on Saturday Night Live.
Yes,
in fact,
you did.
The appliance dealer would come up live and get inside his washing machine and jump out at a certain time in order to make the commercial. We don't remember what a short time that was. And now that I'm 80 and she's 77, it just seems like yesterday.
That you started this. We're so proud of you. Like, you know, we hear so much about millennials, but you were millennials starting this brand new thing. You weren't living in your parents' basement. You had how many children already then? Three. And David comes home and says, we're going to start paying for daily airtime. The weekly had gone well. But the daily, you started with daily. What did you think, Norma-Jean?
Well, I just knew that he had a passion for souls, to see this message of the love of God read on television, because he saw the aerials all on the roofs of the homes, and he says that's the only way we can really get into the homes, because he tried going knocking on the doors, but sometimes that could be a little fearful.
I would wear a clerical collar so they know I wasn't a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon.
And you wanted to be, clergy, and but still, you thought television was better than door knocking.
Well, it's because sometimes it was threatening to come to the door. But with television, and you had to get up. Well, there was only one channel. You wouldn't change anything. But you had to get up and turn it off or on. And so the viewer was in control. And people like to be in control of what they're watching.
You know, I want to jump ahead to when you realized you could no longer carry this around in a suitcase, because that's what you did. You went from network to network, you set up the studio, and then you built your own studios in Toronto. And already by then, that would have been 77. Yeah, 1977. The government of Ontario, the provincial government, felt your social good was so good you got a tax break.
Yeah, we rented a space. It was a gymnasium recreation center that we rented from Confederation Life. And the government of Ontario, Pat Lawler, NDP MLA, got so excited about the results that he saw in his riding that he presented a motion to the legislature of the province of Ontario, whereas the ministry known as 100 Huntley Street is of such social service to the people of Ontario, be it resolved that providing the owners will pass on the savings, that the realty taxes be cut from that building, which brought us down to $1.78 per square foot per annum. This was something God did.
Yeah,
it was God's idea.
Amen. Yeah, and it has just grown and grown. Tell us why you started the prayer lines, because David, today 1,200 people will call in over that every day. That just keeps accumulating. There's been over 8 million who know and watch the show, but then there's been 20 million on the prayer lines. Why did you start them?
Well, it's the two-way television. It's being able to immediately respond to people. And as I mentioned, I did do visitation And normally I'd sit down and read Isaiah 53 if I was invited to do so, where the personal pronouns are all over the place. And there's only one person who ever lived whose name you can put in the place of those personal pronouns. And that's the name of Jesus. And I've never been ashamed, never been embarrassed, never felt hesitant to talk about Jesus and to say he's the reason we're doing what we're doing. It's not a denomination or a doctrine, it's a person. It's Jesus. It's Jesus. If you don't know Jesus as Savior and Lord, now's the time. The phone number's on the screen.
You know, and Jesus said, "Come unto me, all that are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest."
Jesus will do
I
it.
will give you rest. And there's so many people that are needing that message. And so I'm so glad that 100 Huntley Street is still growing strong, and that message is going out, and people are receiving Jesus.
And your leadership, Lorna, as a person of vast experience, your new team members that are being introduced, Greg Musselman, I remember when I first knew him, he was the sportscaster for ITV in Edmonton, Alberta. He was doing the Oilers and you know, the Eskimos and all the teams.
And he loved and admired you. He went to Bible school as a young new Christian so he could come work on this show. It just took us a while to get to him. Both of you have been so outstanding. You pray for this place like it's one of your own children.
It is.
And Ron and Ann, I just want to refer to you and honor you and thank you for serving here for 30 years with your dad, Ron. Mail really started. Mail back to the homes. Now we've got Huntley Magazine. That all began under your watch, Ron, right?
Yeah, well, if we go back to 1962, a year before I was born, that's when the weekly Crossroads program started. And then I came along and I just kind of grew up with seeing Dad on the television, eventually figured out how he got on that little box in the living room. And then I was 14 when the daily 100 Huntley Street started in 1977, just in high school. And it's been amazing to see
and
Dad.
When you hosted, you were CEO here for 2003 to 2008, and Ann, 2009, sorry, and Ann, you came then, and you were Ron's co-host for that chunk of years. And you wrote Bible studies. You were on with Sincerely Yours. You remember, of course, you remember 520 Bible studies.
Yes.
You wrote through us, through the New Testament. You wrote for us. Amazing.
We've done lots of productions, you know, Circle Square for Children, for example. In the first 6 months, we had over 50,000 letters from children asking for the little songbook, and The Way of Salvation was in the back. And in the Soviet Union, they asked for over 1 million copies of the coloring book with The Way of Salvation to the children's program, which Bruce Stacy produced. It just exploded literally around the world.
You ministered out of the strength of your family. And I just want to ask Ann and Ron, what did you learn about watching how Mom and Dad made this all work? I think we've got a beautiful shot of your family, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. What did you learn about keeping families strong?
Well, somehow Dad and Mom were able to juggle the busy life of ministry with the family life.
Yeah,
and
international celebrities, really, they were.
A great balance he showed, but I think part of the secret was Dad's early morning prayer times. You know, he faithfully, you know, he knew the Lord had said, at least as long as you're on television, you need to spend that time in prayer. And it was 90 minutes live when you started 100 Huntley Street daily. And so he would spend that time with the Lord in prayer. And
I think a big part of it is as well, Lorna, is that Mom and Dad are the same when the cameras are not on. We've been married 33 years. I've been part of this family for a long time. And that's what struck me first, is that they're exactly the same as when they're in front of thousands of people, as when they're just with their kids or their grandkids.
Yeah, and so are you two. And that's, I guess, why the marriage ministry has started, Heart to Heart Marriage Ministry, which we love having you on the show here, and we want everyone to get connected to Heart Marriage Ministries. For that, David, we're going to close with this. You are living strong with acute MDS leukemia. 5 years now. What have you learned about trusting God in suffering?
Just get up in the morning, and my family has been such a blessing. Like our oldest son, who with his wife Kathy and Reynolds, are missionaries in
Uganda.
Gulu, Uganda. And Reynolds spent a whole week just sitting in the chair beside my bed when I wasn't supposed to live. And I would just toss on the bed at the Juravinsky Hospital. And Reynolds would be up beside me. "What's wrong, Dad? Can I help? What can I do?" And I see that commitment within families, and it's so important. Ron and Ann's ministry to marriages and families, and our second daughter, Ellen, who's married Nazar Shaheen, who's from the Middle East, a new television program on CTS, Yes TV, with Sarah, their oldest daughter, and Nazar now in English for the first time. They've done thousands of telecasts around the world in Arabic, but now they have this amazing opportunity in English. But they built a kind of a prophet and a prophetess's chamber.
Okay, that's better than a granny suite.
On the side
a prophet's
of their
chamber.
house.
I love that.
On the side of their house, and that's where Norma-Jean and I are living. And we love every second of it.
We're going to come back in a little bit with you guys. We've got to have some cake together. We've got to celebrate. You love this country.
Yes.
And part of the way we fuel this country, fuel this broadcast for the country, is we look for special partnerships and special things to do. What have you got there?
Well, here, take the end there, Ron. I don't know this.
Oh, wow.
My son-in-law, my Arab son-in-law from the Middle East, Nazar Shaheen, he's ordained in the Nazareth Baptist Church. Nazar is all over the world in the Arabic language, now in English. He got this as a blanket, and I put this blanket on all the time. I'm a very patriotic
You're going to
celebrant
love this.
of
Okay,
150 years.